Hello and welcome to a very late week 34. We're actually most of the way through week 35. And I feel like that is completely true to the Taurus experience of plowing through and being behind. I would say the amount of work going on right now. And Virgo really did it to, to Taurus. But I wanted to be thorough and I didn't want to cut any corners. Why would we be doing this if I cut across through information and tried to just assume anything? So better to take the time. We're still within the confines of the Taurus, month. But what I'll do is I've been working on week 35 in the birth chart with this constellation and sign. What also happened was the work has been done for a few days and then life took over and I couldn't actually just record the video. That's part of it as well. That's at least half of it. So here we are, and I'm gonna take time with it anyway, because that's the point. Just wanted to check in. Sun is actually still in Libra. There's that overlap where Libra and Scorpius are actually often part of the same constellation. But I discovered Vesta. And Vesta, I'll just click on Vesta's name, and I'm in Stellarium. Vesta's a minor planet that we need to explore at some point. And I don't think I caught this, so I'm going to go back into Libra's house in the workbook and make notes about Vesta. But I actually would go back, I'm going to, as I show you with what I've done with Taurus, I'm going to go into the other constellations, probably the next round that I do work on this book, when I get it ready to republish for next year. I'm going to include the nakshatras, the splits and the stars, the emphasis on the stars. So here we have Mercury just crossing through the kite of Libra. And remember, there are like 4 different constellations of Libra, different arrangements. So this is just one of them. I don't even think this is the one that I use in the book. Mars hitting Libra. Where do we have Virgo ending up? Finishing off. There we go with Virgo. So Mars is clearly into Libra, but just starting into Libra. We have... Oh, come on, stop glitching. Where's our Sagittarius? Here's Venus way, 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 way up. Yes. About halfway through, I'd say. So we'd say, and Venus is, wow, look at Venus right with Nunki. So that's something to experience. Make note of what that kind of energy feels like. How do they combine? But many exciting things over actually in Taurus. This book, they've lined up this experience with some major events in Taurus. Of course, the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus happening. It happened yesterday, but we're still feeling the effects of it. Yeah, we're clearly through Virgo now. So let me just follow the constellation, the zodiac. Yes. I gotta go look up. Here we have Taurus. So here we have, and I've got photos of this moon. It was amazing, but I also helped, spent the last week to 2 weeks helping 2 souls pass over, involved in creating concentrating my witch energy, shall we say, around their passages. One was very involved with a dog, and I worked together with Oya, helped me from the Orisha, the Orisha of storms, and to create a pull effect on the dog's soul, because the owner my dad's neighbor was having a very hard time letting her go. And it was delaying and delaying and delaying. So I did what I could to work with my guides to put energy into creating a pull effect on her. And so we had a huge storm, and in that storm, the owner happened to cross paths with a teacher from 20 years ago that she loved, who also had been through putting to sleep 8 dogs. And the teacher asked on the day of the storm to come over once, because my dad's neighbor jumped out of her car when she saw her. There was no way to recognize her because she was so bundled up, because we've got full snowfall here now. But so she didn't even know how this person recognized her. But the teacher asked to come over and speak with the dog on that day. So huge spiritual movements, efforts made. And then I ended up, the day that they scheduled to put the dog to sleep or to send the dog over was a day that I normally my dad comes over to my place for brunch, and my son normally goes over to his house. So I switched places with my son, and I went over to the house, and I basically kept vigil in the house while they were outside next door doing doing the procedure. And so I cleansed my dad's cards, his tarot and his oracles, and read from them to myself at the same time, and it was all on point, and it was all during this full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. I am a Taurus Venus, but I'm born in the tropical season of Taurus, but I'm actually born under the nakshatra of Rani in Aries, which is ruled by Kali, and that's why it's Kali that came to visit me, I later find out. She appeared to me in my home a couple of years ago. And she is opponent to Chitra. And she appeared to me just a few days after the sun was conjunct with Chitra. And it's a Chitra native who sued me 4 times. And Chitra is the star of epic lawsuits. But what else is amazing? Right about now, we have this other minor planet, Ceres. Okay, and she's been passing through the Pleiades. This group, this face of the bull is the Pleiades. Okay, and so she's been transiting, well, not transiting through, but shall we say they've been crossing paths. I know at least one astrologer would like Ceres to be named would like Ceres to replace Venus as Taurus ruler. But here we have that moon. So we're going to get into this very constellation, the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, but in Vedic, the six faces. So I'm going to cross there. I did the cultural work of what other cultures in the world. I researched what other cultures do with this, especially even with the Pleiades. They're so famous, everybody notices them because it's such a huge cluster, right? The nakshatra are going to run from Kritika to Rohini to Mrigashira, which is actually going to take us down into a crossover with Orion. Let me see if I can be smart enough. I'm not sure that I can. I've got screenshots. Yeah, with Lambda Orionis. This constellation right here is part of the nakshatra that is connected, that is part of the Taurus experience. Not that they would say Taurus, they don't use this constellation in the nakshatra, right? It's its own nakshatra, but it's that constellation. So it's what's counted as affecting people. So yeah, if that all makes a little bit of sense, let's go get into it. I am on time. If I'm not on time, I'm still on top of the paperwork for this. Our round tent in Taurus. It's going to be so neat how this, I printed up some extra pages of photos because I've had affirmation through the constellation and the sign work about the concept of this round tent or the open tent and the flow, which I started relying on the Mongolian gur, which the West call yurts. But that idea of being portable, yes. We're going to take that over to Africa. We're going to take that to Kenya, where it's been very difficult to find the story of the truth about origins of the story of the Seven Sisters. So more whitewashing, more covering up, but here we go. So much to cover here. But what I've done, so I've put less information about each of the stars here, writing it out, because I had to fit all of this in to make sure that I got on paper what I wanted to say. But I put in faint little lines. I'm sure I'm not quite right with where I put them. I wanted to approximate for now, and then I'll go research and see if I can get... It's not always possible to get the right information that gets you accurate completely, because you're going to find that every source gives you slightly different visuals, different data. But I'll see if I hold it up and you might be able to see what I'm saying here. I went in and I put these dash lines. Yes, there's the one there and the one there. And that divides into the nakshatras, because this nakshatra is going to overlap with Aries, and this nakshatra is going to overlap with Gemini. And this is the main one, and it has the Pleiades in it. It has Aldebaran in it, the big red giant that's basically almost dead. Rohini, taken from the Aldebaran, right? So we're going to need to dig into the Middle East origins, the culture of that, the history of that culturally, yes. But of course the Egyptians started their year with this whole constellation. The year started with the bull. That's what the Giza pyramids line up with. And I can thank the first person to draw that to my attention was Cyril Fagan, the astrologer, the sidereal astrologist. And then I know that several other people have been picking up on that more and more. Ceres right there, I'm going to draw her in. She's not always there, obviously. I penciled in the ecliptic, roughly speaking, and here's Ceres' path, parallel to that, roughly speaking. Okay, so but yes, we have our major star, Aldebaran, and I've been digging into that, the history of that as well, right, of course. So the Pleiades, so this is what we know as Kritika in the nakshatra. But the it's the six nurses, the six mothers of, what do I want to say? Where do I have it? I've got it on the next page. Oh, right, and I forgot the California Nebula, the Dragon Nebula, which is just up from there in there. Okay. But yes, the six mothers, if we go over to Vedic, I'll get to the next page. But we have Kritika Nakshatra, we have Rohini Nakshatra, which is the Aldebaran Nakshatra, and then we have Mrigashira down here, and so the constellation is down this way, Lambda Orionis, this way, right? So, and then there's this excellent site, Vidya Mitra, that gives you the ingresses. Like some of their information needs to be edited for copy paste errors and stuff, but it tells you when the sun is going to hit wherever this dividing line should be. It hits it there. It's going, those are the dates. So if you were born in these dates, you're affected by this, the energy of this constellation over in Orionis. Yes. Sun goes through the Aldebaran, the Rohini, through May 24th and June 6th. Okay. And then Kritika, May 10th to May 23rd. So the way they have it listed in Stellarium, let me see if I can get close enough for it to pick up on the faint type. They're nurses of Kritikaya. What they really mean are the Six Mothers of Kritikaya, who goes by several names. And he was created to be an all-powerful god who would destroy demons. And the 6 faces are the 6 aspects, 6 different ways of dealing with things, yes? And they can be taken to represent the chakras as well. Because then there's the all-in-one, right? The 7th. Now, Learn the Sky channel, again, does a great job of pointing out the history of the Lascaux caves, the bulls in there, and how basically they're charting the progress, because the doorway to the cave, at a certain point, right, the summer solstice, the sun comes right into the cave. So they're basically, it's a clock. It's an astrological clock, those cave paintings. And many caves like that. And facing in different positions, so charting different times, yes? Of course there probably is magic attached to that. Why wouldn't there be? That's the whole, it's not the whole point, but it's what comes with it, right? So thanks to Stellarium app, who cites Wikipedia, which is never, you know, like you want to go beyond Wikipedia, but there's some information about the California Nebula. It's named the California Nebula because it looks similar to California, apparently. The Pleiades. I went to Earth Sky. Is the Pleiades star cluster being destroyed? They expand. So, if you want to know, you can just pause on that and read that. And what else here on... Credit to my partner Bob, no, another Bob in the world, Astro Bob, down in the States. Duluth News Tribune. He's who I found out about Ceres transiting through the Pleiades. And that's happening until, it's not an asteroid, it's, well, he's saying it's an asteroid. They're saying it's a minor planet, though, and I'll show you who's saying that. From the beginning of November till tomorrow, the 20th. I didn't put all the photos I have of Ceres on here from this article, but it's from astronomy.com, and it will give you lots of information on what we know of, or what they know about that planet. Here is a photo of it from astronomy.com. Actually, I think it's one of NASA's images, right? Whether or not that's actually, you know, God only knows what NASA is working. I know Mars just keeps looking like a particular place, identical in the appearance with hills and everything to a place in Ireland. Yeah. Not just identical to it, but actually it. Now, in rupavati.home.blog, I found the information on Migashira and the accurate identification of which star is that. And that gives us the positioning for, see, there's Rohini, there's Aldebaran, yes. But this is where, that's Lambda Orionis. And here's the correlation. It's from a screenshot of Stellarium, right? So that's where it is. Next to Bellatrix, or is it Bellatrix? No, I don't think it is. No, because it would say Bellatrix, but it's near to Bellatrix and Betelgeuse. Here's Elnath, that's one of the tip of the horns of Taurus, right? And there's Aldebaran, right? And the Pleiades. So relative to those, that's where this other is, because the nakshatras are running this way, the divisions, right? So, yeah, that's enough to get through in terms of everything there is to know about just how busy this constellation is. And so then next, there's an overlap, I would say, of information between the constellation and the sign. So let's get into that more. I wonder if I just, no, that's not better really, is it? I think it's just as well to hold this up so you can read at the same time as I'm speaking. But constellationguide.com gives us a worldview of this constellation and what it meant. Well, and the star, Aldebaran, sometimes in particular. So we're going to do Aldebaran and Kritikaya. So Rohini and the Pleiades, which connect to Mrigashire's story, which I realized is specific to Vedic, to Indian astrology. Indian is not even the right word, I find out. Bharat, but even that is a group word. Yes, there are way too many different kinds of people they do, you know, when England does this thing, when the UK when Europe does this thing of group, well, yeah, Europe, they group people together and they're like, here, we'll give you one name, and it's like dozens of different peoples, and then even get peoples within those communities to agree on any one thing together, right? It's not true. Individuals are individuals. But anyway, so people in Mexico, but whoever wants to call it that, but I'm sure First Nations don't. 7 women giving birth. So the question is, one of the 7 stars is harder to see now because they're grouped. They're 2 stars are close together. The idea being that once upon a time they were further apart, and that's why 7 is a thing. But 6 also exists in India. So Dakota, Sioux, which are the Lakota, well, actually it's more than one group, did away with a serpent. Aldebaran fell to earth, did away with a serpent, which led to the formation of the Mississippi River. Which Aboriginal culture? I'm not clear. It's River of New South Wales, Australia, known as the ancestor Karambal, who stole another man's wife and then was tracked down by her husband, who burned the tree in which Karambal was hiding, rose to the sky as smoke and became the star Aldebaran. Exactly. And then there's me that grew up with Princess Leia and Aldebaran. So then I also ended up on Conversation, world's oldest story. Astronomers say global myths about 7 sister stars may reach back 100,000 years. Now what's interesting, there's this article, and there's also, do I have it here? I think I have it on the next page. 2 articles referencing the work of one guy. I'll get it. And neither of those articles do an adequate job of telling me if it goes back 100,000 years to Africa. They don't tell me the oldest story. They don't. They reference it there in the title, and then they don't tell you what the story actually is or whose it is. Just Africa. Just Africa. So what I did remember is that I had a client, Indian African clients, who were part of the Idi Amin purge, shall we say, the atrocity from Uganda when she was in her 20s. And she had a story about a Seven Sisters Falls experience as a child. She'd been warned, the family had been warned not to go on an outing, on an excursion to the Seven Sisters Falls. This is when they're living in Uganda. And they went anyway, and one of her cousins fell in the river, rapids, and was taken away. The uncle jumped in after him to find him. They found half the body of the boy, I believe, and they never found the uncle, or the other way around. So crocodiles. Crocodiles, I believe, as opposed to alligators, but I've got to double check that. One of the two, whatever is native to that river. But I couldn't find any results for that name in geographical searches, right? But I have the story. And what I did find, it took some doing, a Telegraph article from the UK, rediscovering the most heavenly corner of Africa. Loisaba takes a different approach. It takes its name from a constellation. And the word means 7 sisters in the local Samburu language. Thank you. When things are covered up, they are covered up. I also had a very difficult time accessing an article connected to this. I found this article about the other one. Anyway, but I got blocked actually from accessing something that would tell me the story. And we have in ancient Egypt 7 goddesses represented by 7 cows composed the celestial herd. Now we know how Egypt uses Taurus anyway, so they're going to use the Pleiades and Aldebaran to start the year. Right? So they connect 7 goddesses, but I know that and we should be saying Kemet, not Egypt, and connected to Kush. And we need to get more and more into understanding just how black Egypt is, not white. And therefore we have to take the influences into Egyptian dynasties from West Africa and farther south into Africa. Because 7, the whole origin of 7 is going to take us deeper, especially, I want to say, especially over to the west, which is going to tie in, well, actually all of it's going to tie into the African prophetesses that ruled the Mediterranean, the Delphi Oracle. Like, here we go again. So we're getting closer and closer to just certainty of what's coming from where, which is excellent. Lucinda Riley gives a little bit of a span of just how similar the stories are. I think it's safe to say that thanks to trade routes, yes, all the wrong people steal the credit, and it's just the work of going back and saying, well, hang on. Then we have, yes, Murugan, who is also, if I go to VedicFeed.com, here we have the crossover between the star Kritika, the Pleiades, and Mrigashira, the other constellation that's down, that is Lambda Orionis, okay? 6 names: Guha, Kumara, Skanda, Kartikeya, Sharavana. He was raised by 6 Karthigai ladies. Amathula. These are the stars of the Pleiades. Yes? Why? And this is, I'm getting from astroulagam.com. The real story behind. I don't think I have a person's name to credit with this story, otherwise it would be there. And the story, Lord Shiva meditated Shiva and ejected sparks of divine fire from his third eye. The fire god Agni. We have Agni represented in here. Okay? Right there. The other. There's Agni. Okay? So this is all astrological. Wind god Vayu, I have to find Vayu, carried, right, his sparks and dropped them into the sacred river, the Ganges, who's no other than the Divine Mother. And that takes us back to the 7, because the 7 is representative of the Divine Mother. And it takes us back down the Natural Tahuti, Mamiwata rabbit hole. And Natural Tahuti, Nathan Howard, he's doing a lifetime in prison on false murder and drugs charges because he was speaking the truth about all of this and outing all the Masonic groups, including black Masonic groups, through the symbolisms of the 7 in the circle. And the 7 is going to take us to the V shape and the Yoni. And the Yoni is actually the constellation Bharani that I'm born under. And it represents, so and Yoni, of course, is the vagina. right? The birthing of everything. So that ties Africa and India together in knowledge. It ties everybody, because once you get to that Silk Road, trade route, and I'm not saying that one is taking from the other. I'm saying that you have, I think, really the same as always. It's, you know what, I wouldn't even be upset if Europeans were just smart enough to learn from this, but they just never give credit. They pass it off as their own. They create people that don't exist and credit all the work to them. So that just deserves being thrown away. Well, not thrown away. We want to keep it as evidence, but it needs to be damned. So, yes, the chakra work. You can think of Lord Murugan as a symbol of the Kundalini Shakti, which means you can think of the Kritika, the Pleiades, right? Connected to all of that. Kritikaya is its own star. Kritikaya is I gotta remember where I had it. I've got it in a screenshot somewhere, with all these other screenshots. It's its own star. It's Kritikaya. His star isn't the same as the Pleiades. Because they are the Six Mothers, yes. But that's where we get with that. Then I was digging a little deeper because of the Seven Sisters thing, and it brings us into this whole tent culture thing that I've tied to Taurus, or that they got me to tie to Taurus. Okay, so what I did was what I found, because I found that other article, right? I know, why do I fuss with the focus when I'm just going to change it again anyway? But back to this 100,000-year-old story could explain why Pleiades are called Seven Sisters. Okay? Still, live science doesn't tell me what that story is. And I copied out, yes I did, what you're not supposed to do. And on to the next page, I copied out that whole article. Okay? And all they're doing is patting themselves on the back. 100,000 years ago, when humans were first emerging from the African continent and spreading over the world, the two stars would have been more, because they have to come, yeah. Black people only come from Africa. The two stars would have been more separated in the night sky, perhaps accounting for why the Pleiades are named for 7 beings in many stories. In other words, our ancestors, yes. Yes, let's just take everything. I say this as a white person who had not yet left Africa, first came up with the tale and then carried the story about the night sky with them as they migrated to Europe, across Asia, and eventually to Australia. What story? 7 beings. 7 sisters. What were the names? What are the African names for the 7? What's the story of the 7 sisters? No. They don't know. They know there's a story, but they're not telling it. Why aren't they telling it? Right? Again, I can tell you why they're not telling it. I can tell you why. Here's a scene, like that's Kilimanjaro, right? Down, down, down at a distance from where this is. But here we go. This is where, how close are we to the Mediterranean? To Egypt, to Israel, Palestine, to everyone. Yes? There we are. We're right there. Okay. Where's Uganda? Oh, yeah, right there, of course. Yes. So, I found the Nile, like there's a Uganda Nile, yes. And rapids, absolutely. So I found it. This is where we have the Seven Sisters Constellation in the local language. Here's what happened when I tried to click on the first link. Egypt, 7 goddesses, should be Kemet. Celestial herd of skyscrapers. PDF. I try to click on it. This is what I get. A blocked screen. Yes, I get this. I was able to take a screenshot of being blocked out. I caught it in time. I tried it a second time, right? So here's another screenshot, but there's a whole one. And that's them pushing me back out of that site. Right? Bouncing me back. And I mean, there could be more than one reason for that, but it didn't say, the page isn't missing. The owners haven't removed it. I'm literally just being blocked from it. And this is the screenshot I'm left with, right? It actually obscured, you know, when it does that. So that's the fight to get to the truth. Okay, so that's page 1. But I went to, because down here what they did, as per that art travel article, which I'll reference more on the next page, there is a tented camp. Loisaba tented camp, and that's what the article was highlighting, okay? And here we go, full Taurus experience. Now why I went with this in particular. It doesn't really highlight the tent, but you can see part of it. Of course, they're this is like, you know, you're gonna pay a lot for this. So it's way too exclusive, it's way too posh, yes, but the idea of it. The rooms are amazing, yes. That's a common room. The bedrooms are similar to that though. And then they've got these sky beds. You go out and you watch the stars because the view is as good as that one, right? So this all got me going like back to Nathan, right? Here's why he's in prison. Especially probably because of this one. And Jay-Z can tell you all about that one. Gods and Earths. But here's a breakdown from this presentation, Natural Tahuti's last clip on Freemasonry. And he was advocating for Mami Wata and her work on digging up the truth of the African prophetesses that are the Delphi oracles and everybody else. Writers of the Iliad and the prophecies that end up in the Bible. Accredited, and the original Liliths. Yes? This is what the smear campaign against Lilith is all about. Lilith is the wrong name because we're never going to say the real names, right? But 7, all the names that mean 7, even from around the world, yes? The Great Mother and the Serpent. Okay? That's as clear as I could get the type. The 7 cows. Zeb. Right? Is there anything else I want to... Yeah, the star beds. Big money now. Big money now. But in terms of capturing the Taurus feeling, absolutely. This is the idea of when to be inside, when to be outside. The connections. It's totally, I was like, okay, thank you for that. That's exact. I would love to go there and do that, but not as, I think it's about, no, I wouldn't want to do it. It depends. I did look into the companies. I'm worried. Of course I'm worried about what they're actually doing there. And who's really, really raking it in at the expense of the people, right? So one of the things that comes through for me that I'm going to get into even more with this week's 35, with getting into the birth chart, because I find out in that work how there's an overlap with my experience. I go back to the May experience and okay, I've got a dripping situation in my sink that's just not ending. Okay, hang on. God. Okay, I'm going through a strong Pisces phase right now, and yeah, Pisces are going through a lot of irritability right now. But also I went back because my second house is empty. So with your empty houses, if we've gone over, it depends on where, which ones they are, and if we've already gone through them in this workbook. I have the overlap because we already have come through Taurus season in this experience, and we did fourth house during that time, during second house, during Taurus time. Yes, well, actually not truly. What happened? I went back and I checked. No, we were actually in, well, we were in Taurus season, but we were actually, the sun was in Aries then. Yes, because we started when the sun was in Pisces. We started in Aries tropical season because we started in April. Okay, so I go back to Cancer's house. Let's say that. No, I know what it is. The overlap. Here's how I explain it. Here's how I explain it. Okay. Because there's how it's all really, really coming to grips. It's really coming through so beautifully. Back to second house, right? The second month was our second house, like second month, right? Where I said the overlap, the Taurus overlap, yes? Because now we're in our 7th month, right? So numerologically, our progress through this experience, right? So the second month, house number 2, am I right? The middle 5 to 6 days of May. Am I right? Yes, I am right. God, now I'm even questioning. Even though it's right there in front of me. Yes, okay. Whew. Yeah. Good for, used well for resetting needs, yes? And I made a note here about, absolutely, I hit a major dip and reset myself. So what I did, now that I've got to work with, right? I went in and grabbed house number 4, and I was like, well, what happened again in the mid time? What happened in that dip? And it had everything to do with beginning of drawing. And I'm like, well, here I am, like the next book that I'm working on, the detail work, and I got a major setback on that at that time. And here I am again dealing with the final detail work of that book, and in that dip again. And here we are dealing with second house. So now I'm comparing. So if whatever we've done so far, if there's anything, if you can compare to what was going on for you in the middle 5 to 6 days of May, as opposed to what you're going through right now. The next thing that we need to get into is just how transformative, once we get to, because we're in the season of Scorpius, and I needed to compare. You know how Libra season tropical doesn't overlap, as we found out, because the sun lasts in Virgo for a month and a half. So there's an absolute split between the tropical and the sidereal seasons of Libra. And I was like, well, how is that going to affect what I've said here about what you experience in the 7th, in the mid days of October? And I went back to the mid days of October. I'm like, well, actually what happened there, bang on with the 15th, was the Facebook invitation to apply for their group teaching pilot program through Facebook apps, through all of their apps, the integrated apps, so Instagram and WhatsApp and everybody, right? So absolutely that came through, as it, whether or not there's an overlap, still the mid days of October. So it's interesting how the universe is operating according to at least 3 different clocks here, yes? So that stayed true, which is fascinating. So then I was looking ahead, since we are in this 8th one right now, because we're mid-November. So I'll get into that in a minute. But I anticipated at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like, okay, we're heading right into this, what I said, used well for harsh transformations. I'm like, okay, it's 1 a.m. in the morning, we're hitting this mid-period get ready for harsh transformations, whatever that might look like. We've already been through enough harsh. And within 8 hours of that, boom, it started. So that very day, I made the note in my journal. It's right in here. I was like, okay, I'm recording that there should be a harsh transformation starting. I already knew several things were in the works, but I was like, it could be a general thing. It might not be specific to these 5 days. What's going to happen? That very day, I get to my client's house, and it's my major client that I was even worried about taking on because it was such a huge commitment, and it turns me into almost more of an employee than just them being a client. Because it's a weekly, for 3 years I've been with them every Tuesday for 12 hours. And so, no, they announced that they've been succeeding so well in this lockdown period. They're in a cleaning supply. They're a distributor. So they've become multimillionaires. And so they're moving to a new location, and it's way beyond what I want to cope with. And I knew that I was already, it's 4 years to the day that I jumped from another work situation into starting my business, my cleaning business. And so that's a moon cycle. So I knew that it was coming up, and I know that everything's knocking together over this very thing of this drawing program that I've been working on for all of my life, right? And I have to go back and relaunch it. And the detail work is just taking so much longer than I thought it would. And I've done 2 really detailed books already, and I was prepped, but still. So allowing for that, and this time I know that I want to step through this harsh transformation rather than be so traumatized by jumping through it because I didn't know that it, but exactly this time 4 years ago. So this absolutely should be hitting you right now. And so they put it to me, they want me to try and actually do this, to follow them into this new location. There are other complications to the story that are very awkward that I was trying. This whole change gives me a way out without addressing the awkward things that could potentially destroy all of them. And so it's really beautiful what's been orchestrated for me. So whatever you're going through has been heavily orchestrated by your guides and your God. And yeah, I'm finding just how true this all is. So by going back and doing the review work, and this is missing some pages because I haven't done the photo diaries for Gemini and Libra and Aquarius. So even add a few more pages to it from this, but it's the planet pages in here. This is how far we've come. This is how far we've come. And 5 more months to go. Actually, or 6. 6? Jeez. Okay. Because of that overlap month. But maybe there won't be an overlap month. No, there has to be. There has to be. It's already in the book. But it launches us into the next book anyway. So, so what I need to do is adjust my expectations. I think I forgot to press record. Okay, so what I need to do is based on the fact that we've come all of this way, and it's all true. Now I need to be fairly certain that Sagittarius, when we hit the 9th month, yes, mid-December, that it's going to be about collaborating. So finding people, yes. About what? Not entirely sure. But in the 10th, so mid-January, that's when I can expect to be finished. Well, and that's when I finished this book, was mid-January. Actually more into February, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember. But I'm more on track this time. And then negotiating and marketing and then getting on board with everybody, getting everybody organized, right? So that is the accurate timeline I can expect. Therefore, I have to work with that more and more and calm the fuck down. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. That's the comfort, is that it's all, what is being orchestrated is just fucking amazing. So we know that the sun, no, the sun has not hit Scorpius yet. It's still, I want to say the sun might hit Scorpius. Where are we now? It's already Friday. It could easily, it'll be sometime over the weekend or into next week that the sun hits Scorpius. But we need to keep track of the fact that Mars, where are we going to put Mars? And the other thing, do I want to go back to what I found out about Libra, that 7th house? I've already talked about it. But how far back is the calendar for, is this, yeah, that's 4th house calendar. I want to say, here's Virgo's calendar. The last time we charted Mars. So we had Mercury direct in Virgo, Mars direct in Libra. Nope, it was still with Spica and Chitra there. So we need to figure out when Mars actually hit Libra, and that I missed in all of this. So I'm gonna have to estimate that. But it wasn't then. So if let's see here. I'll get the okay. There's Mars there. And there's Chitra, Spica, yes? So let's take the date that Mars was over here. And today's date, so we're 3 weeks into November. And what were we at? Let's see here. On the 22nd, so a month ago, it was with Spica. So it's been a month. Oh, good. There she is. So that's a month right there. So 2 weeks ago, let's just say, if it was even motion, it was with Kappa Virginis. And that's not quite the midpoint though, is it? That's past the midpoint. Try and get that to stay. Midpoint between, so somewhere in here is the midpoint. So a week ago it was there. It's only been, so Mars has only been there for a few days. Let's say for 4 days or so. Maybe 3 or 4 days Mars has been there. Then we have to figure out Mercury. Okay, so let's do that. But what is 3 or 4 days ago? Here we are, 20th series, 19th, 1, 2, 3, 4. So somewhere around the 15th. Into Libra. Somewhere around there. So let's figure out Mercury. The last time we kept track of Mercury, direct in Virgo, on the 18th I had it at, not even close, Spica. Sun was at 18th at Parima. Thank you, Kristen, for making notes. Venus direct. Mercury transiting Spica and Chitra on the 4th. Okay. So Mercury was at Spica Chitra on the 4th, and that is I want to say, okay, well that's 16 days ago. No, it's not. It's 15 days ago. Okay, 15 days ago. Oh, why are we glitching? Okay, Mercury. So Mercury right now, ooh, look at that, tight. What do we have? HD 136101, that's a beautiful name. And 28 Libra. Okay, so then if we have that, that's where Mercury is now. What's the distance between that? So basically a 2-week, yeah, great, we lost Mercury. Oh, if I highlight it, then we'll keep track of it. Okay. Mercury. Where's Spica? There we go. Okay, so that's in a 2-week period. So 1 week ago, yeah, about a week ago. It's been in Libra for about a week. Nice. Okay. All right, so let's say Mercury. Mercury's in Libra. Am I right? Yeah, the 4th. So about a week ago, right around, oh, nice. Around the 12th, that's the snowstorm day. No, it's the day after my snowstorm. Okay. Mercury in. Yes, I was creating a portal right on that day. Excellent. Mercury in Libra. That makes perfect sense. Wow. Beautiful. Ceres transiting. Yes, from here all the way through here, all the way to there, through the Pleiades. So that energy, whatever happens in here gives us an idea of what that energy is like. Plus Venus over in Sagittarius, all that healing energy, absolutely healing energy, I would think. Okay, what else do we have? So Jupiter's supposed to be going direct. Right here we have Mercury supposed to be direct in Scorpius. Yep. That seems very doable. Sorry if my head was blocking the way. Probably was. Yeah, I would say definitely Mercury's totally capable of hitting. Well, let's say if it took 2 weeks, yes, to get from Spica to there, and we're only that far. This is all the beginning of Scorpius. Let's see here. 22. Yeah, it's possible. It might be a couple of days later, but that looks totally possible. Oh, sorry, and I didn't even focus it. But yeah, it looks totally possible. It's supposed to happen there, and we're over here. Can it make it there in a few days? So it might happen more around here. Okay, but that is what, oh, just to show you, I've activated something in here and I'm not sure what it is. I don't know what that is, but I like it. I've activated the compass. Can I get it to 69 degrees? Come on. Oh, down. Down. There we go. Let's end with 69 degrees. Very nice. Okay. So yes, for the next video, if I've forgotten anything that I need to get into again, I'm sure I will remember it. But hopefully I'm doing Taurus full justice. And next are the house number 2 in your birth chart. And I'll get the tarot cards out for that as well. But that's where I actually got more even into my 4th house. Everything that happened with that dip, figuring it out. But it turns out the answer is my 5th house. So empty houses, how they help each other. That's what we get into next time. Okay, which I'll record in a day or two. I might just need to clear my head today. Otherwise, I might even record it today. Okay, much love. Whew. Awesome. Love this. This is so amazing.